Hey, X-Ray. Hey, everybody else that may be in here. It looks like there's a couple of you in here. Um, well, first off, I would like to say that I was planning on Uncle Bill being in here with me. Unfortunately, Uncle Bill texted me this afternoon and said that basically everybody in his household was sick. I'm not sure if it was some kind of stomach flu or what, but there was some major stomach problems going on, and I'm not gonna, you know, get into real big detail with that. But I wish them fast recovery, and hopefully next time Uncle Bill will get to join me for the second installment of the Twin Peaks discussion. Now, I did have at least two other people who expressed an interest in being on this stream with me. But I don't see any of them. So I'm not sure. Um, and I'm kind of surprised that we've just got one person in here, and X-Ray, I'm assuming that's you. Um, and I did, X-Ray, come to think of it, my stomach was kind of kicking around um today as well. So, but I didn't get where, I was violently ill or anything like that. Um, Uncle Bill didn't indicate anything about the coronavirus X-ray, so I'm hoping it's just your garden variety stomach bug, which is bad enough in and of itself. X-ray, you said been having stomach problems lately too. Can't eat the kind of stuff I used to as a kid. No, I definitely can't eat the kind of stuff I used to as a kid either. X-ray. So you say I'd stream with you, but I'm just too goddamn attractive for you to. Well, you can never be too sexy to be on my stream. So if you change your mind, X-Ray, just let me know. Um, I'm gonna, blab at the mouth a little bit to give, possibly more people to get in here to hear the discussion. Perhaps anybody that wants to come on live with me and talk about these shows. We're not going to talk about all of them tonight because one thing I learned from doing the Tales from the Dark Side episode discussion streams with TJ is that you don't want to, have a big blowout and cover all the episodes in one entire season. Uh, Even though there's not quite as many original series Twin Peaks episodes as there were with like seasons of Tales from the Dark Side, there's actually, by my count, there's a total of 29 episodes um plus Fire Walk with Me, which is like a prequel, kind of explaining Laura Palmer's life prior to the unfortunate events that unfold in the original series. So we're going to talk about that at some point in time. In these streams, when I originally started talking about it with Uncle Bill, I said probably break them down into about 10 episodes a night or a stream, which would equal up to, including Fire Walk with Me, 3 streams. So this is going to not be really elaborate. And then I may do a later one on the limited run series that was not very long ago. But I've got to get a hold of copies of those, or I can buy a set. Oh my gosh, I hope I don't have to get up and get on Darcy because I don't know why she was barking. But anyways, um, and X-ray, it might just be me and you. Uh, you know, hold on. I am so sorry. If it isn't one dog, it's another. Apologies, X-ray. She was my littlest girl, Darcy, was in the window barking like a mad woman. Uh, at something out there. I don't know if it was the mailman or who it was, but she was having a fit. Um, hey, the poet, I haven't seen you in a long time, so welcome back. Um, let's see. And actually, you did say, "Oh hell yeah, some Lynch talk." Yeah, we're gonna. Um, everybody will be sick of David Lynch by the time I get through discussing all these episodes. Oh goodness. You say, but yeah, Twin Peaks and Lynch are totally in my wheelhouse. Season one was good. Season two sucked, except for the last two Lynch episodes. Season three was probably the best shit he ever made and a good end to his career. Yes, actually, that is included on my set. Um, which Steve told me, I don't even know if I've actually seen the European TV movie, but what Steve was telling me was basically it was a one and done thing. It explains the whole story in just the one movie. Um, so I definitely want to save that for last, you know, because I don't know. I don't want to just throw it all out there at the beginning. Um, Yes, X-ray. Lynch is pretty divisive. I agree. Yes, the poet. I will do Tales from the Crypt eventually. But I thought I have never done anything on Twin Peaks. I mean, some other people might have done Twin Peaks, but I have never done any kind of stream or anything where I talked about. Oh goodness, so sorry. I virtually did not get any sleep last night because Brandon kept me awake. He woke me up every hour on the hour last night. So I still really wanted to do this stream tonight, but I am just super wiped out, which is why I'm going to kill Darcy. Which is why I have, of course, my Mountain Dew drink, my drink of choice, um, to keep me going a little bit more. Um, so you say I watched Inland Empire and thought it was the biggest piece of shit ever. Hey, Texas, you say, hey, Dana, I'm here on my phone for the moment. Computer's being a jackass. Well, I had a lot of different things at work that were being a jackass. Um, a printer, for instance, we're talking about an HP printer, a plug and play printer, and it would install the drivers and it would do all that mumbo jumbo and then it wouldn't print. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? And the girl's getting really agitated that I was talking to. and saying that she works the front desk, even though they have multiple people working the front desk. And she said, I've been on the phone with you for 2 hours. I can't be on the phone like this for 2 hours at a time because I work the front desk. I cannot even begin to tell you guys the number of times I hear this crap. It's like sometimes I go into these things and I'm expecting um, them to go quickly. And let me tell you guys, never expect anything to go quickly. I was thinking 10, 15 minutes tops. Plug the damn thing in, let it do its thing of installing the drivers. We test a print, we test and see how her um, new printer was printing appointment tickets and school excuses and all of that jazz. And no, I tried everything. I even got one of my buddies on the help desk, and he was trying to help me do things. And he finally said, well, maybe it needs a 3.0 USB cable. And I was like, well, I could maybe order one. And that's when she said, I can't be on the phone for 2 hours, yada, yada, yada. Um, and so I finally asked him, I said, can we get some of our guys, our cross-comm guys out there, have boots on the ground, have them go and install this freaking printer for her? Because she's, she's put out with me. She's put out with the whole situation. I had listened for the last hour of her complaining about all the time it was taking to do this. And I'm trying to be nice as pie and be professional and all that, but I'm just kind of stewing inside because people expect everything to be done yesterday. They don't anticipate there being problems. Um, I didn't really anticipate any problems, but they arise sometimes. But that's all I'm going to say about that. That'll be y'all's dose of the daily grindhouse from me, where I'm complaining about job related stuff or just discussing different things, kind of unrelated to what we're talking about. The poet, you say, yeah, I have to go. Hopefully everyone has fun. Well, thanks for stopping by, the poet. I appreciate it. I'm hoping we have a few more people in here before I'm done with these. I'm not sure if word got around that Uncle Bill had to bow out because of sickness in his family, or people just forgot, or what. Now, TJ told me last night that he would try to be in here, but he didn't know for sure if he would be. I was expecting Rob to be in here, but Rob's a busy man too. He has his own things going on, and all that. So I totally get it. People can't be on every stream that I would like them to be. Um, oh gosh, now Brandon's bargaining. Okay, that means I'm gonna have to go get Brandon and bring him back here. So permit me to step away for just 1 second. Can't come back here because you get tangled up in my cord. Okay? So, for the benefit of the three of you that are in here, I'm going to get started here shortly. If people come in here before I'm done, and still want to be on here, that's groovy. If not, I guess y'all hear me yak about these first 10 episodes. And I'll be totally honest, I had a refresher for the majority of the first 10 episodes, including the pilot. Um, but I've been so wiped out that I didn't actually get to the final ones that are going to be part of the stream. So I'm cheating a little bit because even though I've seen these things multiple times, something like Twin Peaks is something that you definitely either got to revisit before you do some kind of episode discussion on it, or you got to have a little cheat sheet that outlines a little plot synopsis for the episodes. Um, X-Ray says, fuck the stragglers. Let's get this started. And we are, X-Ray. I am not going to wait any longer because I have one. You and Texas, I'm guessing, are the ones in here right now. Evidently, I must have overestimated the amount of people that would be interested in this, or people got other things going on or something. So let's get this party started. And we're going to start with talking about the pilot episode, which gives you, it's movie length. Without commercials and stuff, which it would have had on TV, making it 2 hours long. We get about an hour and 34 minutes without commercials. So the pilot introduces you to the principal players of the small town of Twin Peaks. And Texas, you say, I finally got Blissful to watch Don't Torture a Duckling last night, and she loved it. I'm glad, but I'm slightly surprised that she liked it that well, Texas. Were you surprised that she loved it? Not that she doesn't like horror, it's just some people, I don't know, there's certain parts of that movie, I guess, that turn some people off. And so that's why I was a little surprised by it. So, um, and I think you get a little bit of a sense that some of these characters are going to be quirky in this series during the pilot. So let me give you a brief plot synopsis, and then we're going to get a little deeper into the pilot episode. So the small northwest town of Twin Peaks, Washington, is shaken up when the body of the homecoming queen, Laura Palmer, is discovered washed up on a riverbank, wrapped in plastic. And I'm sure all of you that have seen Twin Peaks remember Jack Nance's character calling the cops and saying, she's dead. She's wrapped in plastic. That is a quote from this show that I will never, ever forget. And in fact, that is Laura Palmer's dead body wrapped in plastic. That was shocking, even, I think, for TV back in 1990 or so. But it is so iconic, and we've seen it so many different places that I have, and I'm going to try not to knock these over. I have some actual little figures from the Twin Peaks show, and there is Laura Palmer. I hope you guys can see that. And she is indeed wrapped in plastic, is she not? So, yeah, these are pretty detailed little figures. I have Agent Cooper as well with his cup of coffee. And I have the log lady, and I also have Bob, who we're going to talk about Bob soon enough. Um, yeah, X-Ray Duckling is a very sleazy flick. Texas, you say, yeah, it was, but she figured out it was the priest before the 30-minute mark. Wow, she's good then. That's right, wrapped in plastic. um, so that is the zinger. That is the big thing that happens during the first few minutes um, of the episode. Jack Nance's character um, is going to go fishing, and he sees something washed up out on a beach area, and he goes to look, and he does not know it is Laura Palmer then, because the body is face down. And once he calls um, the I guess he's the coroner, or he's a doctor and coroner. But once the sheriff, Harry S. Truman, and that is the guy's name, that's the sheriff on here, and the good doctor slash coroner come. They turn the body over. Oh, and also Andy, the deputy, is with them. And one thing you will notice about Andy, first off, is he's a very very sensitive guy who cries at the drop of a hat. So you don't normally see that with a regular, and I stress regular episodic television. You do not see that, nor do you see some of the characters that we're going to see throughout um, the Twin Peaks universe when talking about these episodes. I mean, you're later on going to have a lady that carries around a log and talks to it. Um, you have grief stricken parents of Laura Palmer, um, who over time get little weird quirks. For instance, Leland, Laura's father, in one of the later episodes, is spinning around with Laura's picture with music playing, and he's crying. The way Sarah, Laura's mother, played by Grace Zabriskie, um, she reacts when she finds out her daughter is dead. She reacts much like any mother would. You would lose your mind um, if you were told that something tragic had happened to one of your children. But over time, it gets a little odd. Um, and some of it seems normal, some of it doesn't seem normal. But again, when you're dealing with David Lynch, most people know what kind of ride they're in for with David Lynch. And my dad was not one of those people and I was young, I wasn't totally immersed in David Lynch just yet, but I grew to love his work. And I still love it today. But my dad was sucked in by the pilot, because the pilot seemed pretty normal to him. But then as the shows went along, he dropped out after a while, because he was like, it's just too weird. I don't get this. So he evidently did not get David Lynch's style. Definitely not his writing style or anything like that. Um, I didn't think about that X-ray, but you're right. Bob looks like the killer from Slumber Party Massacre if he let his hair grow out. Exactly. He's got the jean jacket and everything on. Um, and I must say, Bob is one of the more, at least in my opinion, disturbing characters um, in the Twin Peaks universe. I mean, I look at that guy, and when I mean, even if he's not talking, if somebody's just catching glimpses of him, for instance, when Laura's mother sees glimpses of Bob, but nobody else can see him, it's like she's having visions. She screams out loud because the guy is so damn creepy. He's just got an aura about him um, that you could almost believe that this guy would jump up and slit your throat at a moment's notice. Um, so, um, this one is out of the gate with a bang. Okay. So they find out it's Laura Palmer. Then Harry, the sheriff, has to go and both tell Leland, her dad, and her dad is on the phone with her mom, and she knows. And you see the phone drop, and it's just hanging and swinging back and forth. And you can hear her screaming. And she starts out kind of low and a little muffled, and then she just lets out a heart wrenching no, which again really made me feel as if she was a mother that had lost her only child. And let's talk a little bit before we get too far into this about um, Cheryl Lee, who plays Laura Palmer. Um, for some reason, I used to get Cheryl Lee's name and Sherilyn Finn's name mixed up, and I thought one was the other. And I finally got it straight that Cheryl Lee was Laura Palmer, Sherilyn Finn um, was Audrey. And I don't have one of the little figures of Audrey, but I do have one of these like caricature like things where it's got a big head, and that's obviously the outfit that you see Audrey in a lot of times, and she is complete with a cigarette in her hand. Oops, see, now my Leland figure just fell off, which is the reason why I don't touch these things very often. Is just because of that. An X-ray, I think I totally overestimated how many people will be in here because you are officially the only one in here now. But Cheryl Lee, yes, she is a very underrated actress. Something Cheryl Lee was on that not a lot of people maybe know unless they're Beatles fans. Several years ago, there was a movie called Backbeat that was about the Beatles' early days in Germany, playing in these dives and stuff. And so there was a guy, John Lennon's friend, uh, was it Stu Sutcliffe? I'm trying to remember his name. Um, was in the band in the early days when they were playing in Germany. And he unfortunately died at a very early age, I guess, of a brain aneurysm. Um, so Stu met a beautiful young German girl while they were in Germany named Astrid. And Cheryl Lee played Astrid in that movie Backbeat. So again, I don't know how many of you guys have seen Backbeat, but it is an amazing film if you're interested in the early days of the Beatles. Actually, you say, holy crap. Texas, you say you're still here. And you say Stu Sutcliffe, you're right, Dana. Well, I do, I'm a huge, huge fan of the Beatles, albeit a little bit, quite a bit later than a lot of people were. But once I got into them, I was at the time period that the Beatles anthology came out. I was ravenous to find out everything I could about the history of the Beatles and their music and all of that. Um, because it was utterly, fascinating to me. So, if you guys want to go back and see Backbeat and see Cheryl Lee play Astrid in that, you certainly can. She does a phenomenal job in that as well. So, so we also get to see the effect Laura's death has made on her friends and peers at school, including Laura Flynn Bowles' character of Donna, who was evidently Laura's best friend, and James, the motorcycle riding, kind of brooding but handsome young man who I'll just say it. Laura had relationships with several different men. There's a character, Bobby, played by Dana Ashbrook, in this. And this is one case where the name Dana is used for a guy. Um, but Bobby is really, there's a lot of things going on with Bobby. And I get the feeling that Bobby is not too good of a guy. But in a lot of ways, his friend Mike is worse than Bobby is, I think, as far as being a dickhead. Um, because evidently Donna has had a relationship with Mike. There's a lot of intermingling of relationships, and you will figure that out really quickly in this series. Because not only was Bobby with Laura, he was also with Shelly, who works at the diner, played by Madkin Mick's character. And I'm probably masking her name, but she's been on quite a bit of stuff, including Stephen King's Sleepwalkers, where she plays the young girl who sadly gets involved with Charles, who turns into some kind of a cat creature. Yes, X-ray, that is right. Bobby is a multifaceted or multi-layered character. I consider Mike, his friend, to be um, a little bit more one-dimensional, and what you see is what you get. He's a dickhead. What else can I say about it? But yes, Bobby has more layers than that. But um, so Shelley is, I'm going to try to explain all these relationship things. Shelley is married to Leo, who is a very violent, abusive individual who beats her almost all the time he's home for minor things, losing a shirt, or, he's suspicious because she should only be smoking one type of cigarettes, and he finds different cigarette brands in the ashtray in the house. Okay. Typical, typical abusive behavior outlined, almost like a character study of an abusive husband or abusive boyfriend or whatever. Um, so you said, yeah, Mike sucked. I didn't even recognize him in season 3. Um, so, we get introduced to a few more characters. Audrey, whose father owns the Great Northern Hotel, which is the big hotel in town. Um, and her father is having multiple relationships. He's married to Audrey's mother. Um, and Audrey also has a brother who has, as she puts it, emotional problems. And Laura was tutoring Johnny, Audrey's brother. And so Audrey's father, Benjamin Horn, is not only married, but he's having a fling with the head of the sawmill in town, played by Piper Laurie. Um, and he's messing around with her. They're messing around with the books. There's two different financial ledgers for the mill. Then there's Josie Packard, who was married to the the brother of the lady that actually owns the mill. But when he died, he left everything to Josie. But unfortunately, his sister still runs the show around there. She can hire and fire people at will and all of that. So you have a lot of like I said, intermingling, intertwined relationships, because Laura had a relationship with James. Laura had a relationship with Bobby. And Bobby hates James and wants to do him major harm, and so does Mike. I don't know why Mike cares, other than he's Bobby's buddy, you know. And also, we find out very quickly after Laura's body's found and the announcements have been made, and Agent Cooper, played by Kyle MacLachlan, has come to town, that James wasn't really in love with Laura. I think he thought he was, but who he was really falling in love with all this time was Audrey. I mean, not Audrey, Donna. Sorry. Um, so uh, Audrey doesn't really have, like, I guess, a steady boyfriend or anything like that, but she sets her sights on Agent Cooper whenever he gets to town. And of course, he's staying at the Great Northern, her father's hotel. And so she's slipping notes under Agent Cooper's door and, wanting to sit around and talk to him. And Audrey does this weird little dance to this theme that you will hear um, several times throughout the series. And she must dance to it every time she hears it. There's actually a lot of dancing in the show if you really um, want to know the truth about it. Um, yes, X-Ray. She did get done dirty in season 3. It's coming back to me now, and like I said, I will have a separate group of streams just on that more recent series. I mean, David Lynch really done it right when he did this. I mean, it was nearly perfect in my opinion. Um, I'm going to have to refresh myself, X-Ray, because I know a lot of bizarre stuff happened as this show went along. I can't remember Josie turning into a doorknob, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means I'm going to have to refresh myself. Um, so a lot of stuff's going on really quickly, getting thrown at us really, really quickly, just in the pilot. Okay. We're getting introduced to all these different relationships and how they're all interconnected. Um, and we're seeing our first glimpses of Bob. At this point, we're not really sure, who or what Bob is and why. Laura's mother is the only one that can pretty much see him right now, but she's terrified. Okay, so we get an introduction to Laura. Laura had a lot of secrets. Um, we get a big introduction to Agent Cooper, like I said, played by Kyle MacLachlan. And I absolutely love Kyle MacLachlan. And I feel like he knocked it out of the ballpark with this one. He'd been on some of David Lynch's other projects, Blue Velvet for one. Um, but this really let Kyle MacLachlan shine, I think. And there's something quirky about Agent Cooper as well. And you see that more and more as it goes on. He's a very likable character. There's no doubt about that. You like him from the first moment you see him. And just the way he expresses himself, he says, he says, pardon me, tells a waitress at the hotel, but he's like, that is a damn fine cup of coffee. And you will hear him throughout the series talk about coffee and cherry pie. I mean, those two things kind of go hand in hand in the land of in the Twin Peaks universe. Yes, I agree with that X-ray that no one ever used him better than David Lynch. David Lynch really knew what he was doing when he picked certain people to play certain characters. But I think Agent Cooper is probably, and then Twin Peaks is chock full of amazing and complex characters with hidden backstories and multiple relationships and all of that. But I think that Agent Cooper has to be my favorite character of Twin Peaks. I mean, I like some of the others, but he is absolutely my favorite. And you've also got Kimmy Robertson, who plays Lucy, the receptionist at the sheriff's office, who is in a relationship with Andy, the deputy. And so you've got that. And I love Kimmy Robertson. I loved her in everything she's ever been in. And then back to Cheryl Lee again, who Cheryl Lee is kind of like in the background a lot. You see her on a videotape. I did think it was a little odd that they kept referring to it as photos when it's obviously a video, albeit, I guess, a silent video, kind of like maybe almost like 8 millimeter, Super 8, type of deal. But I don't know. It could have just been VHS in those early days without the sound. Um, but I thought that was a little odd, but that's small potatoes compared to some things that could have went on in it. Did anybody else catch that? X-Ray, did you catch that when they were talking about, they showed that video of Laura and Donna dancing, and it was amazing, in my opinion, the way that Agent Cooper figured out that it was James that was filming the two girls, because he zoomed in on and paused the video on Laura's eye, and in her eye, you could see a motorcycle. And that's how they figured out that James was the one that was making the video of them. They had had a picnic and all that. Um, and that was probably the last time, or one of the last times, that both Donna and James were with Laura. Yes, X-Ray. Cooper is into weird Eastern mysticism, and I'm gonna try to remember to talk about that when we get to that actual episode. Um, so this is a really good setup. The pilot really, really enhances everything, and really, I think this is a nearly perfect pilot because it's something that leaves you clamoring for more. I want more. I want more of this story. I want to find out what happened to Laura. Who killed Laura? And that was the big thing. Who killed Laura Palmer? It was like, who shot JR on Dallas? Only better. Um, but there were shirts and all kinds of different memorabilia that stated who killed Laura Palmer, and that was the big thing that was on everybody's mind that was watching that show. Was who killed her? Hey, Kelly. So I think I've talked for probably about 40 minutes or so just on that pilot episode. So I'm going to move on to the next episode, um, which is called Traces to Nowhere. Um, so Agent Cooper enjoys the comforts of the Great Northern Hotel. Bobby Briggs and Mike Nelson are released from jail, which they were put in jail for causing a fight at the Roadhouse, because that um, they wanted to beat up James. Somebody I forgot to talk about a little earlier is Big Ed and his wife Nadine, um, played by Everett McGill and Wendy Roby, I believe. Um, and they had been together on a movie, The People Under the Stairs, where they had played a very bizarre and dangerous couple. Now, in this show, Everett McGill plays Big Ed, the guy that owns the gas station in town. And his wife, Nadine, has a patch over one eye. We don't really know if she's missing an eye at this point or not, or if she just likes to wear an eye patch. But it seems pretty normal. And he's another one that is having another relationship because he is in a relationship with Norma, the owner of the Double R Diner in town. Norma's husband killed somebody and is in jail, and she's worried about what's going to happen when he gets out. But she's totally in love with Ed. Meanwhile, Ed is not only dealing with his relationship with Norma, but he's also dealing with Nadine, his wife, who seems to me to be batshit crazy pretty much because she's doing this thing where she wants Ed to put drapes up in the house. And then she decides that you see this one scene where she's open and closing the drapes, open and closing the drapes. And you think, what in the hell is she doing? But she's decided she wants to make the drapes silent. So she goes to the store and gets cotton balls to put on the runners for the drapes. Well, Ed's grease gun explodes all over him basically, and he comes into the house and he drops grease on her cotton balls that she has laid out on the runner, and she gets really upset with him when he does this. And so later on, he comes back uh, home, and you hear her say, "Ed, is that you?" And he said, "Yeah, it's me." And then she goes, "Ed!" And he's like, "Oh God." And he thinks she's gonna, I guess scream at him or hit him or something. She comes barreling out of the bedroom or one other room in the house and jumps at him, and she's like, "Oh, Ed, because you dropped this grease on my cotton balls, it's genius. I can't thank you enough. That was how I got the drapes, the runners on the drapes to be quiet. And we're going to be so rich because of this." Um, yes, X-Ray, they were a very Lynchian couple and people under the stairs. But at least Ed in this case, Everett McGill's character here is relatively normal. He was batshit crazy and people are on the stairs. Yeah, actually, I agree. Big Ed is one of the few characters with a good ending. Um, so so Bobby and Mike get let out of jail, and of course they they're still after James. Bobby, of course, does not like James because he knew that James was fooling around with Laura before she died. Um, we are introduced to the log lady quite a bit more in this episode, as she actually comes up and has a short conversation with both Agent Cooper and Harry, the sheriff. Um, and actually, James gets invited over to Donna's house and has dinner with Donna and her family. Who Donna is, her father is the doctor slash coroner. We're also get to see a little more of Dr. Jacoby this episode, who was Laura's psychiatrist, but evidently, as he makes plain, her parents did not know that she was seeing him. And he's kind of a off the wall psychiatrist, seems kind of like an ex hippie or something of that nature. We're not really sure about Dr. Jacoby. Um, and actually, I'm looking at this. Warren Frost plays Dr. Hayward. Um, and Warren Frost, I believe, was one of the I guess he was like the counterpart to David Lynch in creating the show. Um, so, I said the log lady was a little bizarre. So here's the conversation that's had between the log lady and Agent Cooper. So the log lady comes over and says, "I heard you speaking about Laura Palmer." And Agent Cooper says, "Yes." And she says, "One day my log will have something to say about this. My log saw something that night." And Agent Cooper says, "Really? What did it see?" And she says, "Ask it." Um, so Agent Cooper kind of looks at Harry and doesn't say anything. And the log lady kind of sighs and says, "I thought so," and walks away. Um, So you were just, these are building blocks, is what these are. So you had the pilot, and then the second episode is starting to build on the entire mystery behind the death of Laura Palmer. Hey, Dirk. I love the log lady too. Actually, I'm not going to take her down, but I have a little figure of her too. Dirk's watching Black Sunday. Whoo, buddy, have fun with that. Um, well, you missed out on me talking about this. I prefaced this by saying that I was fully planning on Uncle Bill being with me on this. Um, I I thought, and maybe Kelly can shed a little light on this. Maybe Rob is in class, or maybe he got tied up with something. But Rob had expressed an interest in being on this one as well. He asked me the time that I was doing it, and I told him. So he didn't like for sure say that he was going to be on here, but I kind of got uh, an indication that he might like to be. So, and we also are, I don't know if something else is going on. I don't know if Dead Pit is doing something or not. I know Uncle Bill's not going to be doing it, or if he is, I'm not sure how he's doing it, because what he told me was basically his whole household is sick with some kind of stomach bug. And so I don't know if that includes him, or he's the only one that doesn't have the stomach problem, or what exactly is going on there. And I didn't ask for him to elaborate. He said that I could either wait or I could go ahead and do it. And I thought, well, I've kind of made people wait long enough for this. And so I thought I would just, even if I had to discuss these episodes by myself, I would go ahead and do it. So, um, so there's a little bit of trivia about this episode. So the introduction of the sexual rapport between the characters of Audrey Horne and Dale Cooper was a suggestion of director Dwayne Dunham, who felt it would benefit both characters. And I liked that little sexual tension or whatever that was between the two characters. Dunham felt that the central mystery in the series, the murder of schoolgirl Laura Palmer, was simply a MacGuffin to compel what he saw as the real focus, the interaction of the large ensemble cast, which totally makes sense. But because based on this tragic thing that happened during the pilot episode, we are introduced to an amazing ensemble cast. Probably one of the best ensemble casts I've seen on television. Um, so the origin of the fish in the percolator, which happens in these within the storyline of the next few episodes that I'm going to talk about. The origin of the fish in the percolator comes from a past experience of co-creator David Lynch. During breakfast at the studio of his friend Bushnell Keeler, he discovered that he and David Keeler, I think they mean he and Keeler, drank coffee made with a bar of soap in the percolator. Ugh. I think I would almost rather a fish be in the percolator. This episode was viewed by approximately 14.9 million households upon its initial airing, which represented over a quarter of the available audience. So when Twin Peaks was rerun on the Bravo cable network, I don't recall that, but some of you might. In 1993, David Lynch wrote new introductions for each episode that were performed by Catherine Coulson as the log lady. The one for this episode was, and I did watch this particular one. I carry a log. Yes, is it funny to you? It is not to me. Behind all things are reasons. Reasons can even explain the absurd. Uh, Warren Frost and Grace Zabriskie also appeared together in episode 7, Seinfeld, The Rye of Seinfeld. Um, so, okay, before I talk about a little more trivia here, keep in mind that some of these may contain spoilers. which I should have prefaced before I even got this started. If you have never seen the original series of Twin Peaks, you might want to, go back and watch them before and then you could watch my episode discussion or something to that effect, because um, this is such an amazing series that I would not want to ruin it for anybody. So here we go. Here in the scene where James Hurley is released from jail, watch carefully for the secret sign exchange between Big Ed Hurley and Deputy Hawk. Its significance will be explained in later episodes. And I did notice that upon rewatching this. This episode also features the first full appearance of Frank Silva as Bob. So, as I said earlier, this is essentially a building block to the episodes just keep building and building, and the mystery keeps getting, in my opinion, deeper and deeper and deeper as we go on. Actually, you say UB had some bad Prestonsburg Peking, it sounds like. Does that place still exist? I thought Peking still existed. I actually ate there once when Steve and I went to Prestonsburg for one of the screenings that the guys did for Madman at the Strand. X-Ray, you say they fucked up the entire Cooper Audrey relationship in season 2. Yeah, that I don't know if it was because maybe some different people had the reins at some point or what, but that seems kind of shitty to uh, invest so much into it during the first season, just to downplay it till it didn't even exist anymore in the second season. And as amazing as this series is, I I can definitely say there were, low points as with any television series. So I don't talk too awfully long, and I'm the only one talking on here about the episodes. So you guys don't get totally bored. Um, Brings us to episode 3, um, which they don't really give a title as far as IMDb that I'm looking at. So this gives you this episode, you get to see quite a bit more of the creepy Bob in a dream or nightmare, whatever you want to call it, that Agent Cooper has, including the backwards moving little guy on here, um, and him being in this room with weird, looks kind of like the shining carpet. There are red curtains. The little guy has a red suit on, and he seems to be walking backwards. It's very creepy, because when you first see the guy, you see him from the back, and he's just kind of like uh, shivering almost, or jittering, and then it seems that Laura Palmer is sitting beside him, looking very beautiful in a long black dress. Also, Agent Cooper is sitting in a chair opposite the little guy and what appears to be Laura Palmer, and he looks significantly older. Which, when I talk about the third season of Twin Peaks, which actually came 25 years later, um, you have almost like it all comes together. The pieces fit together because you have a significantly older Dale Cooper. Um, and I'm not really going to share a lot about that because I don't want to ruin this for everybody. So the little guy in the red suit basically tells, it almost seems like he's talking backwards, but it's not really backwards. I've forgotten exactly how they did that. Maybe it'll tell here in the trivia how they did that. If anybody remembers exactly how they did that, if they slowed the dialogue down or what to make it sound like that. But it really, really works. And so the guy basically says to Agent Cooper that that gun that you like will come back in style. And he says, my cousin, she looks a lot like Laura Palmer. And and Agent Cooper's like, but that is Laura Palmer. And so he says she has many secrets. And at one point, Laura Palmer gets up, goes up to Agent Cooper and kisses him and whispers in his ear. And we see some flashes of Bob during this dream slash nightmare. Um, and we also see the one armed man uh, who who gives a little more of an explanation. We've seen little snippets of the one armed man. But evidently he was somebody that knew Bob, but he didn't want to keep doing the terrible things that Bob was doing. And he actually had a tattoo on his arm that said, "Fire, walk with me." Um, and removed his whole arm because he didn't want anything to do with that kind of lifestyle that Bob wanted. But Bob is extra creepy, just like the creepy Kentuckian, I guess, in this episode. The whole uh, getting up in the camera and doing, I mean, Frank Silva is very, very good in this. Very good at making you feel a little off balance, making you feel a little unnerved. Um, so you say it's weird how that worked out, almost like they knew in advance it would happen. Yeah, I have never seen anything pieced together so perfectly like that, especially if that much time has gone by. They didn't even, when the new Roseanne show came out, they didn't even piece that shit together that good. So David Lynch is a master. I say hats off, kudos to him for being able to do that. Um, and who knows, David Lynch might have had it in his mind all along that 25 years later he was going to continue the Twin Peaks series. So I think this was about the time that my dad dropped out or tuned out when it started showing the little guy and all that. And I'm like, yeah, but really, that's when stuff really gets going. Somebody else that we're introduced to in this episode um, is, hold on here. Let me just bring up all this here. Miguel Ferrer, who plays FBI agent Albert Rosenfeld. And something that made me sad when the new series was on was Miguel Ferrer, who was also in The Stand and a lot of other stuff. He usually plays heavies. He usually plays bad guys. He's not really a bad guy per se in this. He's an FBI agent that works with Agent Cooper. but he's an asshole. But something that made me sad when the new series came, or the new season came on, season 3, Miguel Ferrer was unfortunately dying of cancer at that point in time. The log lady was also very sick. She may have had cancer too. But man, Miguel Ferrer, I say hats off to that guy. And sadly, he's no longer with us. But he really put his all into the show during the original run and also during that third season. And you could tell he was ill. You could tell he was very ill. Um, but if we go back um, to this third episode that I'm talking about, where we get the introduction to his character of Albert, and you watch how he, like, Agent Cooper might be quirky and a little bizarre, but he's nice and he treats everybody kind pretty much. Albert comes on the scene with his cronies and he insults the town of Twin Peaks. He insults the sheriff. He insults Lucy. He insults everybody he's comes into contact with. And so Harry, the sheriff, is really taken aback and really angered by this. And so after Albert goes on this tirade, Harry takes him aside and he says, "I hear you're really good at what you do." And Albert says, "Yes, I am." You know, not cracking a smile, not saying thank you. And so Harry says, "That's good, because if any other stranger ever came in here and started throwing crap around like you have, they would be looking for their teeth up on a." I'm hesitant to say this, but it sounds like he says on Queer Street, which might have been the name of the real street. Um, and so anyway, that's what I thought he said. And of course, back in 1990, it probably wouldn't have been taken wrongly or anything like that. But anyway, Albert's kind of like, "Ooh, I can't believe this guy came back. Like, nobody ever comes back to me like this over stuff." And so later on, Harry does end up punching Albert, because Albert is starting a fight with the doctor, um, and essentially starting a fight with Benjamin Horn, who is kind of like the Palmer's liaison, because they're not in any shape to have to deal with um, all the goings on of like the autopsy on their daughter and all that stuff. So Benjamin is just basically their liaison. He's the in between guy, the go between, the moderator, or whatever you want to call him. So Albert's really wanting them to get out of his face, get out of his way, and let him do what he needs to do. And he'll take as long as he damn well pleases doing this, and they can bury Laura at any point in time. So everybody, they don't understand this. They don't understand this big city asshole coming into their midst and telling them when they can bury somebody that has been important to virtually everybody in this town. Um, so we get a little taste of Albert here, and Albert's one of those characters that you love to hate, and you know the kind. I think a lot of us know those types of characters right off. And Miguel Ferrer really played it to the hilt. And again, I say hats off to that man. He was an exceptional actor, and he will be be missed by many. I'm sure. So, um, see if we can. And also, we get a new introduction to another new character. Benjamin Horne's brother Jerry arrives in Twin Peaks, and together, Benjamin and Jerry, or Ben and Jerry, together they go to One Eyed Jack's and meet with the madam Blackie O'Reilly. Audrey leaves a clue for Cooper, which essentially leaves him One Eyed Jacks, as a clue. Deputy Hawk finds a bloody towel near the crime scene. So, some trivia on this. Cooper's dream is mostly made up of deleted scenes from the pilot in its alternate international edit. So keep that in mind. Um, the opening shot of the Horn family silently eating dinner lasts for a full 60 seconds. Now, the episode's ending was parodied in Who Shot Mr. Burns, a 1995 two-part episode of The Simpsons, in which Dale Cooper and the man from another place were replaced by the characters of Chief Wiggum and Lisa Simpson, respectively. The backward speech and unexplained shadow moving across a wall were included in the parody, which takes place in a detailed recreation of the Black Lodge. This episode was watched by an audience of 19.2 million households. So we see the audience going up in size in the United States, equating to roughly 21% of the available audience. Frank Byers, the episode's director of photography, has stated that the chief inspiration for his choice to use wide angle lenses and soft lighting throughout the episode was the 1958 Orson Welles film Touch of Evil, which John Carpenter has also mentioned in reference to 1978's Halloween. The episode marks the first time that Invitation to Love, which was a soap opera that aired in Twin Peaks, Washington as of early 1989, is featured. This seems like a weird soap opera, but because this is David Lynch, it totally fits in. The series followed the travails of the inhabitants of the Towers, a lavish high-rise apartment complex, and somehow paralleled the events of Twin Peaks. The Washington Post Tom Shales has described the dream sequence as the scene that separated the men from the boys, noting that it further polarized the series' audience, attracting loyal viewers and putting off others. And that's exactly what I meant when I was talking about my dad dropped out basically when this stuff started. When more of the log lady stuff was going on, this stuff with the guy in the red suit, and all of that, because he didn't get it. He did not get Lynch's take, I guess, on entertainment at that point in time. The episode's reliance on surrealism has been seen as symptomatic of a broader move away from social realism within television drama. Frank Silva is credited on screen as Bob for the first time after being uncredited for his brief appearance in the previous episode. He would, however, revert to being uncredited for his next 4 appearances during the show's second season. During the rock throwing scene, which goes back to X-Ray talking about weird mysticism on the part of Agent Cooper. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Dirk, you just wanted to say that was fun last night, Dana, and thank you for having me on. Well, Dirk, I loved having you and TJ and old Curly Jaws on. Y'all really helped me round out my episode. So I say thank you guys. Um, and again, you have an open invitation to come on at any point in time. Um, so the rock throwing scene that this trivia is referring to um, is where they're trying to figure out who Jay is, that Laura talked about in her diary. So she said she was really nervous about meeting Jay. So Agent Cooper decides that he's going to get Lucy and Andy and Sheriff Harry Truman all together. And so he's got a blackboard, chalkboard, and he's got all the J names. Either it's the first name that begins with J or the last name that begins with J. Something about J in their name. He has them listed. He has a bucket of rocks or small stones, and there's a glass bottle set up on a stump. And so he, as the names are read off, he throws one of the small stones at this glass bottle. And one of the names, it knocks it off, but it doesn't break it. Um, one of the names, it does shatter. And so we had, James's name was on there. Dr. Jacoby. Like I said, there were several different names. Josie Packard, um, that were on there, and Laura was also helping Josie Packard with, I believe, English. I guess she was. It's obvious that Josie can speak English, but I think maybe Laura was trying to improve it for her. So during the rock throwing scene, the footage of Johnny Horn, Audrey's brother, is taken from the pilot featuring original actor Robert Davenport. And ironically, this episode introduces Robert Bauer as the new actor in the role. This gives Johnny Horn's character the unique distinction of having both actors who played him appear on screen in the same episode. The unofficial title of this episode, Zen or the Skill to Catch a Killer, is a bit of a misnomer. Cooper's interest in Tibetan Buddhism is in Tibetan Buddhism, while both Zen and Tibetan Buddhism fall under the mantle of Mahayana Buddhism. They are, in fact, quite different. First of a handful of select episodes, mostly ones directed by David Lynch, feature an alternative end credit sequence. Right after Benjamin Horne salutes Blackie at One-Eyed Jack's, he recites from Shakespeare's Sonnet 18, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" And Victoria Caitlin and Michael Ontkeen, who plays Harry S. Truman, were in the movie Made to Order. Okay, so here's something about the so-called reverse speech. But again, the trivia items below may give away important plot points. So just wanted to warn you of that. This is the first time that the man from another place, played by Michael J. Anderson, is seen. Although a spirit, he appears to Cooper as a dwarf in a red suit and dress shirt. In the dream, the man gives Cooper a series of cryptic clues, which ultimately prove helpful in determining the identity of Laura Palmer's killer. The man's fellow Black Lodge spirit, Bob. One of these clues is a strange 1940 style jazz dance, a sequence that makes repeated appearances throughout the course of the series. The series never made clear the man's reasons for wanting to help Cooper or his true identity. He is also an inhabitant of the Black Lodge, a realm of pure evil. He was created from Mike's severed left arm. Early on in the series, the man gives Agent Dale Cooper clues to apprehending the man's nemesis, Bob. He later makes recurring appearances in relation to the Black Lodge. The strange cadence of the man's dialogue was achieved by having Anderson speak into a recorder. This was then played in reverse, and Anderson was directed to repeat the reversed original. This reverse speech was then reversed again in editing to bring it back to the normal direction, a technique called phonetic reversal. This created the strange rhythm and accentuation that set Cooper's dream world apart from the real world. Anderson recalls that the phonetic reversal was not difficult to master, as coincidentally he had used it as a secret language with his junior high school friends. Series creator David Lynch was unaware of this when he cast Anderson in the part and had hired a trainer to help Anderson with the enunciation. When he found out Anderson could already talk backwards, he canceled the trainer and wrote more difficult lines of dialogue for Anderson to read. Okay, here's a Shining connection, guys. When Jerry says all work and no play makes Ben and Jerry dull boys, he is referencing the Shining novel by Stephen King and film by Stanley Kubrick. Both involve a haunted hotel with eerie visuals and detached characters, much like Twin Peaks. David Lynch is, like many directors of his generation, a great admirer of Kubrick, citing Lolita, arguably the Kubrick film that dealt with the most Lynchian themes, as one of his favorite films. However, Lynch was pleasantly surprised to hear that the admiration was mutual, and Kubrick screened Lynch as a racerhead to his crew while making The Shining. The Red Room is an extra dimensional place and a waiting room for the Black Lodge, a mystical dimension bordering the town of Twin Peaks. David Lynch claims to have conceived most of the sequence while leaning against his car on a cold night while its chassis was hot and free associating ideas, which that sounds totally David Lynch. Um, Scenes in episode 2, especially the rock throwing scene in the forest, have been cited as introducing a spiritual side to the character of Dale Cooper, which also would be expounded in the later episode 16. Also, Cooper's heuristic approach pointedly avoids the routine deductive apparatus of logic, clues, or muscle. The fact that the series protagonist embraces this intuitive manner of deduction sets Twin Peaks at odds with the naturalistic trend in analytic philosophy. The dreamlike approach, though, is a hallmark of Lynch, who, according to Greg Olson in his book Beautiful Dark, has always identified himself as an artist first, a man fascinated by spiritual realms who's committed to expressing his inner life. This would also be the final time we would see Cheryl Lee playing Laura with her natural long blonde hair. For the remainder of the season, her role as Maddie, which was Laura's cousin, and Cheryl Lee, of course, plays both roles, required her hair to be dyed a much darker color, which resulted in her wearing wigs whenever a flashback of Laura was required or her corpse was seen. As Lee cut her hair shorter between season 1 and 2, and even shorter before filming Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, she wore wigs for both roles in season 2 and in the feature film prequel. So, um, yeah, we got so much going on here already that you feel like you've been watching this show for years. I mean, literally, that is how complex Lynch is. And nothing is simple in Lynch's world. And I've discovered that with every film that he's done, even including his short films. Um, and Twin Peaks is no exception. is definitely no exception. Dirk, you say Twin Peaks is pretty tame compared to a lot of Lynch's films, but he still doesn't hold back on his signature abstract dreams wrapped inside of nightmares and a drug induced coma reality. That is a perfect description, Dirk. That is spot on. Oh, that's okay, X-Ray. You say, shit. Sorry, had to take a call. Yeah, that happens to the best of us, doesn't it, X-Ray? X-Ray, you say, I think a lot of unused concepts for his unmade Ronnie Rocket probably leaked over into Twin Peaks and other projects. Oh, I'm sure. You say Ronnie Rocket had a similar kind of weirdo detective who does strange rituals. Darky say, yeah, I can see how Lynch and Kubrick would admire each other, and I have heard Kubrick showed the entire cast a Razorhead while filming The Shining. I thought you would like that little bit of Shining Twin Peaks crossover trivia, Dirk. Um, Dirk, now can you? I'm remembering now what you were telling me last night. Did you want to explain in the chat about the similarities you found um, in another movie? And you and I pretty much agreed that we think Lynch might have seen this before because I'm not remembering the exact title, Dirk. That's why I'm asking you to kind of refresh me a little bit with that. Um, was it like the red rings of something? Or I'm sorry, I should have written it down actually when you were telling me. That's how bad my memory is anymore. And then I don't get much sleep anymore because Brandon, bless his heart, he basically kept me up all night last night. Um, so I'm gonna go back and forth in the chat, but I'm gonna like so it was backwards, but they like played it forwards and backwards and all of that. Um, so I wanted to because I know the guy that played Benjamin Horne's brother Jerry, and I know I've seen him on other stuff, and I've just got to figure out what that guy's name is, what his real name is. Um, okay, that's David Patrick Kelly. Okay. So yeah, I have definitely seen David Patrick Kelly in other stuff because he just has one of those faces that you don't forget. It's unique. It's not weird. It's just unique. Um, so he was a feisty and fierce character actor who born in Detroit, Michigan. He burst on the acting scene in 1979, playing the devious leader of the leather clad gang, the Rogues, in Walter Hill's controversial New York City gang film, The Warriors, from 1979. Kelly's tight lipped expressions and attitude that made him appear like a grenade with the pin pulled got him plenty of roles playing defiant young men, often in trouble with authority. He locked horns with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte in Walter Hill's fast paced 48 Hours. Was dropped over a cliff by Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Violent Commando, was a member of a trio of killers after Harry Dean Stanton and David Lynch's Wild at Heart. So we're mentioning Wild at Heart again, and played T-Bird, the leader of a gang of arsonist murders in The Crow. His range of roles in a wide variety of genres has earned him great respect and in Hollywood, as he is a wonderfully captivating actor. One of the most popular and influential performances came with the unsettling screeching cries of warriors come out to play from his debut on-screen role. So, uh, again, he is a guy that you don't forget his face just because his face is just so interesting and unforgettable. And two, he was in John Wick Chapter 2 playing Charlie for you big John Wick fans out there. But it seems like I've seen Warriors. It's been a while. I've seen 48 Hours. Okay. Since TJ and I have been talking about Tales from the Dark Side, he played Richard Hall from the Tales from the Dark Side episode Slippage. He was Luther in Beverly Hills Cop. He played the character Jerry in Miami Vice. He was in Moonlighting, Commando. He was in an ABC after school special. Yeah, so he was in quite a bit of stuff. Hey, Darren. Yeah, okay. I knew it was Red Rings of something. Dirk, you say, sure, it's Red Rings of Fear, the third part of the Schoolgirls in Peril trilogy. So I urge you guys to seek that out. I want to seek it out and take a look at it because just from the description that Dirk was giving me, I was like, yeah, Lynch had to have seen this. Actually, you say David Patrick Kelly played Drop Shadow in Wild at Heart. And you say Kelly Adlib, Warriors come out to play. Dirk, you say its Italian title is Enigma Rosso. Darren, you say Sergio Martino made a 4-part TV series in 1993 called Private Crimes. It's his version of Twin Peaks. Well, that's cool. And Darren says, hey, Dirk, I just watched Black Sunday. Dougie said, Dana, the opening scene has a dead 16-year-old girl wrapped in plastic. See, that's what I'm saying. That's a hell of a coincidence. I say Lynch saw it. Darren, you say I have to see Red Rings for sure. I'm going to seek that out. I mean, who knows? Steve may have it somewhere. Okay, so I think we will moving right along to the next episode. Let me run it back here a little bit. Okay, so now we're on to episode 4, which actually has Laura's funeral. People are probably thinking, damn, you're 4 episodes in before Laura's funeral is actually happening. But there's a lot of build up before this. Okay. Um, so Cooper meets with Audrey, who confesses to leaving him the note about One-Eyed Jacks. Cooper tells Truman he can't remember who the killer was in his dream, but yet he calls Truman up, Sheriff Truman, and tells him that he knows who killed Laura and tells Harry to meet him for breakfast at the Great Northern. But then he tells him he can't remember who the killer was in his dream, but insists the dream is a code to solving the crime. So this also has the very bizarre and unsettling scene of Leland, Laura's father, falling on the casket and going up and down on the casket as it goes down into the ground and comes back up. And Mix character of Shelley, the waitress at the Double R Diner. I never really understood why this was in here, but, like, why is why? Because this is David Lynch, but after the funeral and the craziness that goes on there, um, Shelley is seen in a scene or 2 later explaining to 2 old men in the Double R diner about it, and they're just laughing, and I'm like, yeah, I know this is David Lynch, but why would somebody make jokes and then why would somebody else or 2 somebodies laugh about that? So I never really understood that entirely, but I think it's just part of the craziness of Twin Peaks. So you get to see a little more of the passionate relationship between Josie and Harry. Um, and it's so funny. There are several scenes where Agent Cooper said nobody tells him that people are in a relationship. He's just like, "Oh, so how long have y'all been together?" And everybody's like, "How do you do that?" Um, so um, So this episode introduces Cheryl Lee's second role of Madeline, Maddie Ferguson. So now she gets to be on screen a little bit more, but she's not playing Laura, she's playing her cousin Maddie, um, who is the niece of Sarah Palmer. The episode introduces the Bookhouse Boys, formerly Citizens Brigade, which is a secret society formed to combat the darkness surrounding the town of Twin Peaks. The episode was to originally feature a scene in which Cooper visits the graveyard and meets an elderly groundskeeper who recites a long speech telling Cooper that if he puts his ear to the ground, he can hear those who are buried singing due to their coffins expanding. The scene was cut due to problems casting the groundskeeper. That would have been an interesting part of the fourth episode, I think. So it's a shame that they couldn't do that. Tina Rathborn, the director of the episode, chose to open the episode with a shot centered on Cheryl and Finn, finding the actress to be seductive and absorbing in a similar manner to screen icon Marilyn Monroe. Rathborn had initially worried that the episode featured too many static scenes of characters sitting and talking, with little action, and asked David Lynch if she could borrow some of the imagery of the previous episode's surreal dream sequence to keep these conversations more interesting, adding brief snippets of footage as Cooper discussed the dream with the others. Rathborn has noted that this dream centric approach to the character of Cooper is rooted in Carl Jung's theories of analytical psychology. She felt this was something that has not been seen on television before, and credits Lynch with introducing it to the series. She has also described the narrative both of episode 3 and of Twin Peaks as a whole as a Bildungsroman showing Cooper's development into a more rounded and enlightened person. Maddie Ferguson's appearance as Laura's identical cousin is possibly a reference to the lead characters of the Patty Duke show, and I didn't know that either. Um, so here's another item that may give away important plot points, just letting you know. When Cooper recounts the events of his dream from Twin Peaks episode 3, the events described are exactly those seen in the ending of the international version of the Twin Peaks pilot, which is technically a self contained movie in case the series wouldn't be picked up. The descriptions include references to Mike shooting Bob, which occurs in the international version of the pilot, but was not depicted in the dream sequence. Darren, you say if you want to see Jumping Jack Taylor get terrorized on a roller coaster, then you're in for a treat. Awesome. I do want to see that. Um, yeah, X-Ray. I did feel bad for Maddie throughout the series. Hey, David. You say, did you watch these when they were originally aired? I did. I actually did. My dad and I started out watching it, and then Dad dropped out when more of the bizarre stuff started happening. Yes, Dirk, I agree. Hell of a coincidence too, Dana, with the timing. I thought you covering Twin Peaks and we just cover the schoolgirls in peril. Life's funny like that, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought that we would have be talking about kind of similar type of things? Um, Darren, you say, I've only seen Twin Peaks the one time. I really liked it. So one day I want to go back and see it again. Unfortunately, there's not enough hours in the day. Exactly, Darren. And I was saying earlier how I'm going to, once I finish this one, and hopefully I'll be able to have more people join me on the later ones, I'm going to cover season 3, which came a good 20 to 25 years after the original series. But I'm going to have to purchase it because I want to complete my collection of Twin Peaks stuff. Um, and then rewatch those episodes because I've slept since I watched those episodes. I want to be all up on everything before I actually do that. So, um, moving right along to episode 5, The One Armed Man. So Cooper questions Dr. Jacoby, who suspects Leo Johnson is the killer. Gordon Cole, Cooper's supervisor, calls in with Albert's report. Josie Packard spies on Ben Horn and Catherine Martell. And Catherine Martell is the head of the Packard Mill. And Pete Martell, played by Jack Nance, is her husband, who she treats terribly. Hawk tracks down the one armed man. So, although Piper Laurie is an attractive woman, even in her older age, she's attractive. I just never fully, I wonder if any of you guys felt like this. I never really fully understood the relationship between her and Benjamin Horn. I mean, I know the primary thing was money. They wanted to screw everybody else out of money. They had it in for Josie. They didn't want her to get anything, um, and all that. But, um, and I have to give credit to Piper Laurie where credit is due because she was gutsy too. It's not like she did a topless shot. This was television anyway, but there's one scene where you see that her and Benjamin Horn are obviously having an affair. Where she's supposed to be naked, but the sheets are up over her bosoms. As I'll be nice here. Um, and she probably wasn't topless. She probably wasn't completely naked. But I say kudos to Piper Laurie for even at that age, for not being afraid to do a scene like that. Very, uh, very talented lady, despite any of that. Um, so let's see here. Let's talk about a little trivia about this episode. So, Ben asked one of the Icelanders if he is familiar with the works of Kut Hampson or Newt Hampson. I'm not sure. A Norwegian author who won the Nobel Prize for Literature was known for works that explore deep psychological themes with imagery bordering on surrealism, was a major influence on Franz Kafka, David Lynch's favorite author. The llama snorting in Cooper's face was confirmed by Kyle MacLachlan as a happy accident. So be on the lookout for the llama snorting. Madeline Ferguson is from Missoula, Montana, hometown of series creator David Lynch. The one-armed man is a reference to the real killer in The Fugitive. His name, Philip Gerard, is in reference to the police officer pursuing the title character. Robert Ingalls, the writer of the episode, has identified several 1960s television series, The Wild Wild West, Mayberry RFD, and The Fugitive, as being influential to the series as a whole. Ingalls has also noted that the series would make use of normal, conventional storylines and everyday occurrences as a familiar framework, allowing subtle details to seem slightly more unusual against the backdrop. He particularly cites this episode's parole hearing for Hank Jennings, Norma's husband, is an example as it offers nothing out of the ordinary other than the single domino which Jennings is playing with at all times, drawing attention to the item as it is the only thing which seems out of place. The direction of the episode was inspired by the 1945 film Fallen Angel, making use of small sets and long depth of field shots. Several scenes in the episode were also shot using a split diopter lens, allowing for a greater field of depth. For example, a scene featuring Sherilyn Fenn and Richard Beamer talking had the actors at either side of a room. The split diopter lens allowed for both of them to be still in sharp focus. The episode ends with a shot featuring a Dutch angle. Hunter was the only director on the series who Frost and Lynch allowed to use this shot, which was otherwise forbidden. David, you say I love the third season. I did too. I was really, really excited about it. Darren, you say I never had the privilege of watching it originally on TV. I can remember it being on, and I can remember the iconic music theme. Years later, when I finally got around to seeing it, I was kicking myself. Yeah, I've done that with other series that I didn't watch on the first run. One of those being Xena, Warrior Princess. I was like, how in the heck did I miss out on this? And I did promise, it might have been X-Ray. I know it was somebody that wants me to do a Xena Warrior Princess episode discussion set of streams as well. So, which brings us to episode 6. Cooper and company have tea with the log lady, so we're getting to see even more of the log lady, who tells them there was a third man following after Leo and Jacques the night Laura died. At Jacques Renault's cabin, Cooper, Hawk, and Truman find Waldo the bird. So, things are getting, they're getting deeper and deeper and deeper with every episode we go into, and there's more and more plot points, and believe it or not, even more mystery, which I love. That's one thing that this series never let up on was mystery. So let's dig into a little trivia for episode 6. Audrey is crying at one point for no clear reason. A deleted scene revealed that Audrey had been reminded of a time when she pushed her brother Johnny down a staircase, possibly causing his current condition. This was Mark Frost. Okay, so I was wrong about Warren Frost. It was Mark Frost. Sorry about that, guys. This was Mark Frost's first solo writing credit for the series. When Twin Peaks was rerun On the Bravo cable network in 1993, David Lynch wrote new introductions that were performed by Catherine Coulson as the Log Lady. The one for this episode was I play my part on life stage. I tell what I can to form the perfect answer. But that answer cannot come before all are ready to hear. So I tell what I can to form the perfect answer. Sometimes my anger at the fire is evident. Sometimes it is not anger, really. It may appear as such, but could it be a clue? The fire I speak of is not a kind fire. Throughout the series, scenes set in the Great Northern Hotel's dining room and episodes directed by Leslie Linka Glatter always feature a convention of some sort. It was coincidental in this episode, but the director decided to make each of her episodes feature one as an in joke. This episode features a group of American Indian movement members in this capacity. The scene in the woods outside the cabin were filmed in Angeles National Forest, which is located in the San Gabriel Mountains, overlooking the Los Angeles basin. Cooper's Dream is set on March 1st, 1989. On this day in history, Iceland celebrated its first beer day, and it marked the lifting of prohibition in Iceland since 1915. Leslie Linka Glatter, the director of the episode, has noted that the episode exemplifies the themes of longing and desire, which she feels characterize the series, and that most characters were driven by their desires for each other. She has also called attention to its careful balance between tragic and comic elements. Um, Also, for you guys that are going to rewatch these episodes or maybe already have and want to go back again, a fly can be seen on Cooper's teacup in the whole shot of the Log Lady's testimony. So here's some more trivia that may give away important plot points. Just wanted to let you know before I start talking about these. The poker chip that rose out of the cuckoo clock in the cabin from the picture is missing a piece of the same shape as was found in Laura's stomach. Some critics, knowing that the names Waldo and Lydecker came from the movie, Laura posited a theory that Laura had somehow faked her own death. How exactly this will be possible, even in the supernatural setting of Twin Peaks, is unclear. The reference to a third man was seen as a nod to the movie The Third Man, which also centers around a character faking their own death. When Cooper and the police officers were roaming around the houses, all kept their finger on the trigger. This is a very unsafe practice as it can have fatal consequences. For example, when the Log Lady surprised them, it would have been very likely that someone spooked and shot at her. The safer way to handle a gun while pointing it is to keep your finger on the trigger guard and not the trigger. So a little bit of a safety tip for you guys there. Don't do what they did in the show. Okay. So moving on to episode 7. So Audrey cons her way into working at the perfume counter where Laura worked and discovers that it's being used as a recruitment post for One-Eyed Jacks. James, Donna, and Maddie plan to lure Jacoby away from his office. So again, guys, it just keeps building. The mystery just keeps getting deeper the further we go in. And we've got 3 more episodes for me to talk about before the stream is over. I noticed that we had a steadily building audience. We're up to 9 people now. So I want to thank everybody that came in here for this one, even though Uncle Bill wasn't able to be on with me. And unfortunately, I guess nobody else is going to be on here with me because I'm going to be done here shortly. So let's talk about a little bit of trivia for this episode. So Waldo, the Minor Bird, was voiced by Cheryl Lee, who also as we said earlier, plays both Laura and Maddie in the series. The name of the insurance salesman who visits Catherine Martell is Walter Neff. This is a reference to the 1944 film Double Indemnity, which is about an insurance fraud plot also involving an insurance salesman named Walter Neff. The popular cherry stem scene was inspired by an incident in Harley Peyton's life. He had been dining with friends during the time he was writing the script when a female friend demonstrated to the group that she could knot a cherry stem with her tongue. I want to ask, is there anybody in the chat that could knot a cherry stem with their tongue? Peyton immediately added this to the script, finding it fascinating that he could witness something on one day, write it the next, and 2 weeks later see newspapers discussing his version of it. Sherilyn Fenn has admitted that she was unable to actually perform the trick, simply watching the stem for a tied one already hidden in her mouth. However, co-star Madkin Amick has since demonstrated it during television interviews. As Blackie notes, the false name Audrey gives her, Hester Prynne, is the name of the protagonist in Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel, The Scarlet Letter. The character of Madeline Ferguson was named for characters in Alfred Hitchcock's 1958 film Vertigo, Kim Novak's Madeline Elster, and James Stewart's Scotty Ferguson. Caleb Deschanel is the director of the episode, recalls the teleplay for the episode being approximately 40 to 45 pages long, which he felt offered the show a leisurely pace compared to modern television episodes, which are filmed from teleplays up to 120 pages. This allowed the series to dwell on its subtext and unexpressed desires of its characters rather than focusing solely on narrative action. Deschanel and Harley Peyton, the writer of the episode, have described the episode as exemplifying the need to be a fan of the series to fully enjoy it. And that's a true quote to me. Again, I harken back to my dad bowing out of watching the series once the more bizarre elements started appearing. As the progression and development of the characters occurs over multiple episodes and rewards the attention of the regular viewer. Peyton has also noted that the distinct personalities of the series characters meant that he considered some of them more difficult to convincingly write for than others. He found Cooper to be particularly tricky to write for, as the character had an idiosyncratic view of the world which needed to be maintained, but found Audrey Horne to be his favorite to work on, as he considered the character and actress Sherilyn Fenn to be both sexy and smart and to have developed substantially as the series progressed. Dale and Ed give the aliases Barney and Fred to Blackie, a clear reference to the Flintstones. Years later, Kyle MacLachlan would become the antagonist to these two characters in the Flintstones from 1994. Sherilyn Fenn was unable to actually knot a cherry stem with her tongue, instead simply switching the stem for a tied one hidden in her mouth, which we talked about a little earlier. When Twin Peaks was rerun, I'm not going to read that one. That's another about a quote. When Audrey skims through Emery Battist's book, the following dates can be seen: 3/27/89, Steva; 3/31/89, Sarah; 4/01/89, Barb; 4/08/89, Sandra, unseen; 89, Paula, unseen; Prina, 6/10/89. There's some other names that are mentioned. This episode opens on the night of Wednesday, March 1st, almost immediately after the end of episode 5, but most of the episode takes place on Thursday, March 2nd. Now, here's some more trivia that may give away important plot points. Waldo and Bob Lydecker are referenced, as we said a little bit earlier, to the film noir Laura. One character, Waldo Lydecker, is obsessed with a woman named Laura who fakes her own death. This, plus a reference to The Third Man, another film involving a fake death. led to the speculation that Laura was, in fact, not dead. How Laura could have faked her death was never adequately explained. But hell, they could have thrown it in there. A lot of stuff uh, doesn't make logical sense, but it's David Lynch. Blackie tells Agent Cooper that he looks like Cary Grant. Kyle MacLachlan will later go on to play the ghost of Cary Grant in Touch of Pink from 2004. X-ray, you say Audrey had lots of practice on ding dongs. That is. Uh, so moving right along to episode 8. Audrey is hired at One-Eyed Jack's, but is caught in a trap when her father arrives. Cooper gets Jacques Renault to reveal the details of Laura's last night in the cabin. Deputy Andy saves Truman's life and apprehends Renault. So, again, things are getting more and more mysterious. Now, Norma's husband, who she wants to be her ex-husband so she can take off with Ed. But I don't know. I got the feeling that she felt like she owed him something, that she owed Hank something. And he kind of tries to play on her sympathy quite a bit once he's released from prison. And so he's working at the Double R Diner because, again, I guess the parole officer or whatever came to talk to Norma in an earlier episode and basically told her or asked her, would she be able to provide a job for Hank when he gets out of prison? Why she should have to be responsible for him, I don't really know. But I guess that's just kind of a little side plot and not really important to necessarily moving the plot along. So this is the only episode of Twin Peaks that was directed by co-creator Mark Frost. However, Frost also directed all the segments of Invitation to Love, the soap opera that is often seen on the characters' televisions. When Twin Peaks, I'll read this quote. When Twin Peaks, of course, was rerun on the Bravo cable network, David Lynch again wrote new introductions performed by Catherine Coulson as the Log Lady. The one for this episode was, a drunken man walks in a way that is quite impossible for a sober man to imitate, and vice versa. An evil man has a way, no matter how clever. To the trained eye, his way will show itself. Am I being too secretive? No. One can never answer questions at the wrong moment. Life, like music, has a rhythm. This particular song will end with 3 sharp sounds like deathly drum beats. So production designer Richard Hoover notes that he saw the pilot for the series at the Telluride Film Festival before becoming involved with the series. During his screening, he noticed Mark Frost's name in the credits and remembered working with his father, Warren Frost. So, okay, Warren Frost, who plays the doctor in Twin Peaks, is Mark Frost's father. So there is a connection there. After learning that the production designer for the pilot was no longer available to work, Hoover contacted the younger Frost and inquired about working on the series. Hoover was hired almost immediately. Hoover has pointed out the unusual nature of the series set designs, most of which feature ceilings and hallways that lead into said sets, which allows characters to be filmed entering a soundstage set without the use of cuts. Hoover felt that the series' use of a consistent palette of reds and earth tones allowed the introduction of strong black elements into set and costume design, citing elements of Blackie O'Reilly's office and One-Eyed Jack's as an example, with its vibrant red curtains and ruddy wood tones offset by her stark black outfit and dark hair. The hues in the footage filmed for the series were sweetened in post production, increasing the saturation of the red tones, which also caused black elements to seem deeper and more striking. This effect was offset by the clothing of several of the law enforcement characters, which had cooler tones and contrasted against a warm palette. The episode is also known as The Last Evening, a title assigned during the run of the series in Germany. Most of the German titles are now used widely by members of the fandom internationally. This episode opens immediately after the end of episode 6, still on the night of Thursday, March 2nd, and proceeds through the night into the wee hours of Friday, March 3rd. Again, these items that I'm going to talk about next may give away important plot points. The identity of the person who attacked Jacoby is never explicitly revealed, but according to Mark Frost's DVD commentary, it was the same person who killed Laura Palmer. As Bobby is trying to frame James, he calls James an easy rider, a reference to the film Easy Rider, in which the lead characters smuggle cocaine in their gas tanks in the gas tanks of their motorcycles. Okay. Dirk, you say, I remember it being on TV and I would watch it when I could, but didn't see them all on TV. Which brings us to episode 8. So Audrey is hired at One Eyed Jack's with, oh, wait a second. I think I just read that one, didn't I? Sorry about that, guys. Which this is going to bring us into season 2 already, believe it or not. Which, well, no, I don't know about that. Let's see. Hold on, guys. There should be one more episode. So I'm going to check this because I think something about this is not exactly right here. Because I don't want to give you guys wrong information because that's weird because it's like they're missing. Maybe they're not. So I just want to double check myself here, guys. That's what I get for uh, not checking this out really closely. I just don't want to skip any episodes. Uh, okay, so maybe that is correct. Um, so episode 9 is also known as Coma. Um, this is the second episode of second season of the American mystery television series Twin Peaks. Okay. So let's go back. Um, I'm still not sure about that. Okay. So this is the second episode of the second season of Twin Peaks, and also the 10th episode of the series as a whole. Let's see. So during breakfast, Cooper explains Buddhist Tibetan traditions and the history to an uninterested Albert. Oh, that's not a stretch because we've already established that Albert's an asshole. Albert tells him the results of Jacques Renault's autopsy and states that Jacques was snuffed out with a pillow. The killer wore gloves, and the tape used to bind his wrist was stolen from a hospital supply cabinet. Albert says the mill fire was arson, with Leo Johnson being the prime suspect. Albert then reports that Wyndham Earl, Cooper's former partner, who is institutionalized, has vanished into thin air. An Asian man reads the paper and watches Cooper intently. Um, Donna carries a tray of food to a bedridden Mrs. Tremond. A little boy wearing a jacket and bow tie sits near the door and makes creamed corn disappear from the food tray and appear in his hands. Mrs. Tremond says, "My grandson is studying magic," and denies knowing Laura well. She suggests that she ask Mr. Smith next door. The boy says, Jain Ame Solitaire, and Donna goes next door, knocks, and leaves a note. So there's Donna leaving notes again. In Ronette's room, and I forgot to mention Ronette. Ronette was the other girl that disappeared uh, and probably narrowly escaped being killed like Laura did. And they find her walking on a bridge or a train trestle of some sort early on in the pilot episode. And so basically, she's been in a coma during a lot of this time. And the doctor pretty much says that she could have a large amount of brain damage. So in Ronette's room, Harry and Cooper read the instructions for adjusting the stools, then sit next to Ronette's bed. Ronette denies that Leo, so Ronette's talking by this point. Ronette denies that Leo was the man that hurt her. And when Cooper shows her the sketch of Bob, Ronette reacts violently. Jerry and Ben debate the merits of burning the real or the fake ledger and decide to toast marshmallows instead. At the Double R Diner, Andy has trouble taping the sketch of Bob captioned, "Have you seen this man to the front door?" The log lady enters and sits at the counter next to Major Briggs, who's Bobby's father. Norma asks the log lady to spit her gum in an ashtray rather than on the counter. The log lady tells the major that her log has something to tell him, deliver the message, and the major says he understands. At the sheriff's office, Andy tells Lucy that when he had applied as a donor to the Tacoma Sperm Bank, and they told him he was sterile and could never have babies, so now he wants to know why Lucy is having one and how. Uh, in the sheriff's office, Truman has Hank sign in and tells him to keep his nose clean for another week. After Hank leaves, Truman tells Cooper he and Hank grew up together and that Hank used to be a bookhouse boy. So we're talking about the bookhouse boys again. One of the best. Ben Horn phones and reports that Audrey has been missing for 2 days. Jerry brings the unsigned insurance policy to Ben and explains that Catherine would not sign it because of concerns about the beneficiary being Josie. And we all know that Catherine does not want Josie to get one thing. They decide to call the Icelanders, and Leland enters. Again, Leland is Laura's father. Enar tells Ben that Leland had called to tell him about the fire, and Ben and Jerry calm the concerned Enar down. Ben suggests that Leland confine his activities to preparing his tax return. Leland then sees a copy of the sketch of Bob and says that he knows the man as the man who lived next door to his grandfather's summer house at Pearl Lakes when Leland was a little boy. Leland leaves to tell the sheriff. Ben asks Jerry to kill Leland. So really, Ben is not that much of a friend to Leland. So at the hospital, Dr. Hayward shows Leo to Shelley and tells her there is possible brain damage. Shelley asks if he is a vegetable, and he does not deny it. Shelley cries. Lucy receives a call for the sheriff from someone who will not give his name. She tells the caller she cannot connect him unless he tells her his name, and then they hang up. So at One-Eyed Jack's, Audrey intercepts a girl carrying ice to Emery Battis, who is lying inverted on a chase lounge with ankles and wrists bound while another girl pushes a vacuum cleaner. Audrey signals the girl to leave and then unplugs the vacuum and wraps the cord around his neck. She threatens to reveal all about Emery, Laura, and Ronette to her father. Emery admits working for the owner of One Eyed Jack's, her father, and recruiting Laura and Ronette. He says Laura came there one weekend but was using drugs and they threw her out. He says her father saw Laura there and that he makes it his business to entertain all the girls. He says Laura knew Ben Horn owned One Eyed Jacks and that Laura always got her way, just like Audrey. In the evening, Bobby and Shelley sit in his dad's car. He tells her that Leo gets a disability check as he is out of prison, and he gets over 5,000 a month, but only if he is home. They didn't talk about being together. At night, Cooper tells Diane, who he only talks to through a tape recorder, about being troubled because of Wendell Merle's disappearance and also because Audrey's absence touches him. Major Briggs visits and tells him that he has a message for him. He explains that his work includes maintenance of deep space monitors aimed at distant galaxies, and they routinely receive communications that are gibberish and noise or space garbage. Among these was one clear message that came in late Thursday night or early Friday. About the time Cooper was shot, he notes, the message was the owls are not what they seem. And I clearly remember this being talked about. When Cooper asks how he knew it was for him, the major shows him another message that came in later. Cooper repeated many times. At the Hayward home, James, Maddie, and Donna record a song. Donna notices James and Maddie looking at each other and runs out of the room. So Donna's getting kind of upset that Maddie, who looks exactly like Laura, James is starting to show a little interest in. A phone call comes for Donna from Harold Smith as Maddie has a vision of Bob coming at her over the couch, causing her to scream. James and Donna go to her, but there is nothing there. So now we have another character that is seeing Bob, but nobody else can see them. Cooper dreams several flashbacks, including the giant telling him the owls are not what they seem. Ronette dreaming of Bob, the image of an owl superimposed over Sarah's vision of Bob, Sarah going downstairs and Bob smiling, which is, by the way, a very creepy smile. Very creepy. Cooper awakes and answers the phone to Audrey saying, "Why aren't you here?" She tells him he looked handsome in his tuxedo and that she is in trouble. Blackie and Emery hang up her phone and Blackie tells Audrey, "Miss Horn, you don't know what trouble is, not by a long shot." So, we are going to cover one final episode, guys, and that is episode 10. So I'm going to give you a little peek into that episode. So here we go. So episode 10, or The Man Behind Glass, is the third episode of the second season of Twin Peaks and the 11th episode of the series as a whole. So Harry helps orderlies restrain Ronette in the hospital. Cooper and Albert enter. Cooper takes a sample from her fingernail. A small piece of paper contained the letter B. And if a lot of you will remember, and I've neglected to mention this, a piece of paper with the letter R was retrieved from, Cooper was able to retrieve it from underneath Laura Palmer's fingernail. So now they also have a small piece of paper with the letter B on it. Cooper tells Harry and Albert about his visit from the giant. Donna visits Harold Smith, who offers her his hospitality. He has many flowers in his living room, and he says he sent the letter for her to investigate Meals on Wheels. which was something that Laura also worked with Norma on. He says he is a shut in because he cannot go outside, that he was a mystery in Laura's life. He asks Donna to place one of his orchids on her grave for him and walks out to his greenhouse. Donna tries to pull a slip of paper from the bookshelf, but Harold interrupts her with the lady slipper orchid. Harold says Donna is every bit as lovely as Laura said she would be, and she takes the orchid and tells Harold that she will be back. At the station house, Cooper stands in front of a blackboard with the letters found under the girl's fingernails and the names of the people who have seen Bob: Maddie, Mrs. Palmer, Cooper, and Ronette, and a picture of Bob. He says the lines between the names are a psychic link that will lead them to him. Harry asks about the giant, and Albert dismisses it, then reports that cocaine found in James' gas tank matched the cocaine found in Jacques' car in Leo's house, meaning that Leo framed James. The letter B found under Ronette's finger was a cut from an edition of Flesh World. He also says that he sent a picture of Bob to law enforcement agencies across the country and came up with nothing. He reports that Cooper was shot with a Walther PPK, which he notes to be James Bond's gun. So now we got some James Bond connections. On his way out, Albert insults Harry again, so Harry grabs Albert's collar and says that the last time he punched Albert, he felt sorry about it, but the next time will be a pleasure. Albert states his philosophical convictions and says that he loves Sheriff Truman. In the front of the station house, Cooper tells James he can go home, but to stop trying to figure out everything out himself. Lucy tries to find words that use the letters B, T, and R. The foppish Dick Tremaine then comes in to take Lucy to lunch. Leland enters and talks to the officers about the picture of Bob. He says that he knows him. When he was a little boy, his grandfather had a summer home, and Bob was his neighbor. He lived in a white house, and he thinks the name was Robertson. Cooper sends Hawk to the lake to investigate. Leland says that Bob used to flick matches at him and asks, "Do you want to play with fire, little boy?" Lucy and Dick sit at the counter at the Double R Diner. Richard talks about his method for memorizing customer orders, and Lucy asks why he's not calling 6 weeks after 3 months of going out every week. And after their night on a bed in Horn's Home Furnishings, she then reveals that she is pregnant. James and Madeline sit at the diner, the former asking about Donna's smoking. James tells about Donna's visit to the prison and how she seemed to want him through the bars. Madeline holds James' hand and Donna enters. Misunderstanding the gesture, she tells him how much she liked Harold and storms out. Blackie and Emery tie up Audrey, and Emery makes a video of her. Emery and Blackie argue over whether their plan will work. At the station house, the one-armed man shows Harry a selection of books. He sees the picture of Bob and reacts strongly. Shelley meets Harry and Cooper in the station, and they ask for a statement regarding Leo, but she refuses to say anything against him. Cooper escorts her out the door and tells Harry that he believes her reasons to be an insurance scam, but he is not sure who thought it up. The one-armed man struggles with his medicine in a bathroom stall and has a seizure. He talks to Bob and says he is after him now. Cooper follows a marching band out of the hotel elevator and tells Ben about Audrey's phone call, asking if there's trouble at home. Ben tells Cooper that Audrey has gone missing before and warns him to keep away from Audrey. An Asian man eavesdrops on their conversation and follows Cooper. So we still got the Asian man in the picture. Audrey lies on her bed. A man named Gene pulls a veil from her face and gives her a caramel and a shot. A woman stands nearby holding his tools. Blackie plays a surveillance tape of Cooper at the casino, and Emery informs her that Cooper is in the FBI. Jean Renault stands behind them with the woman Blackie's sister. Jean says he will be the middleman for Audrey's ransom. So Ben will never know that Blackie and Emery are behind it. In exchange, Emery and Blackie will bring him the man responsible for his brother's death. Agent Cooper Jean says they cannot let the girl live. Cooper enters Harry's office with coffee and donuts. Harry reports that Josie called saying she will be back the next day. Harry asks to see her first alone, and Cooper permits it. Hawk reports that he found a boarded up White House by the lake and is trying to discover whose it is. Harry asks them if they have seen Gerard, the one armed man, as he never came back from the bathroom. Cooper searches the bathroom, finds Gerard's needle and medicine. Without chemicals, he points, um, Cooper says, and wants to find the one armed man. A hospital orderly cuffs Nadine to her bed. Dr. Hayward tells Big Ed that she ripped through 2 pairs of leather restraints the previous night. So this reinforces our ideas that Nadine is batshit crazy the previous night and that her adrenaline levels are high. He tells Ed to talk or sing to her. As Ed sings, Nadine grips his hand, sits up, and snaps the cuffs. She claps spasmodically and chants a cheer. She begins talking to Ed, seeming to think she is 18 and about to try out for the cheerleading squad. Cooper and Harry enter Jacoby's room at the hospital. His wife, a young Hawaiian woman, rubs his feet. Cooper helps to hypnotize Jacoby, and he walks him through Jacques' murder. Jacoby says he knows the murderer. Donna brings the orchid to Laura's grave and tells Laura about her new relationship with James. She says that she loves James, but it is a mess and that Laura's problems are still the center of her life. James visits Madeline to say that he cannot find Donna and that his mother came home. They almost kiss, then hold each other. Donna finds them and suddenly leaves with James chasing her out. Leland comforts Maddie, who is upset that people think she is like Laura. Cooper and Harry wait in the doorway and arrest Leland for the murder of Jacques Renault. Harold answers a knock at his door. Donna tells Harold that she is tired of being patient with James. Harold comforts her and leaves to get her a drink. Donna strokes a flower and opens a notebook. The Diary of Laura Palmer. So, we're down to 6 people, but I'm glad there's 6 people still in here listening to me ramble on about these episodes. But we have reached the end to the first stream concerning the Twin Peaks series. And I will be back next. I think what I'm going to do is switch up the Hitchcock things. I hope Kelly's still in here to hear me say this. We're actually going to do a Hitchcock stream, barring anything going on, tomorrow night. And then I think I'm going to switch the Twin Peaks streams to Mondays. So we've got 2 more. We should have 2 more streams for Twin Peaks. And then after that, I will determine with Kelly whether we want to keep doing the Hitchcock streams on Tuesday nights or do we want to switch back to Mondays. So, tomorrow night, of course, is the Hitchcock stream with me and Kelly. Wednesday will be the final stream on the last half of the final season of Tales from the Dark Side with me and TJ. I don't know about Thursday. I did take Good Friday off, so I would have a 3-day weekend in any event for Easter, and I was granted that day off. So that's what I've got upcoming. Again, I don't know about Thursday. Friday, I will more than likely not be doing anything. And then, of course, Saturday, I want to remind everybody about the upcoming watch along for Saturday, which will be Drive-In Massacre for April the 8th. So we got Drive-In Massacre April the 8th. April 15th is Ghost House. April 22nd, He Knows You're Alone. April 29th, House on Sorority Row. May 6th is Death Ship. May 7th, which will be Sunday, which that's the first weekend of May, so we get a bonus watch along. May 7th is Graduation Day. May 13th is The Prowler. And May 20th is Eyes of a Stranger. So I haven't got all of May done, um, but um, I do have up to May 27th. X-Ray, you say you should do Dead and Driving. Believe it or not, X-Ray, I have never seen that movie, so I probably have to watch it first, but that could be a possibility for a future watch along. So I went on for 2 hours and 38 minutes on here. But I want to thank everybody that showed up for this. I'm sorry that you just had to hear me talk. Hopefully, we'll have a more lively discussion next Monday when I start the second part of the Twin Peaks series of streams. So we can all look forward to that. And with all that being said, I am going to skedaddle on out of here for the night, and I will see everyone on the flip side. Y'all have a good night now.